The mining sector has been a key anchor for the Zambian economy from time immemorial. And with that, there's been a huge focus on the part of this administration, the government led by President Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, to ensure that there's restoration of mining assets that have fallen, that have gone into a derelict status, or where there's been a challenge. And all of these challenges have since been resolved. You talk about Mopani, talk about KCM, including mining houses that have been essentially been defunct for over 20 years, like Shaft 28 at Luanshya Mine. Now, with that, you're seeing a lot more investment in the mining space. You're seeing expansions taking place at Lumwana, expansions taking place at Kansanshi, of course, NFCA, and many others. And you've got greenfield projects, exciting projects like the Mingomba project by Gov't Metals, among others. I mean, the list is huge. There's never been a time where there's been more investment in the mining sector than now. And this is exciting for us because of what it means for the citizens of Zambia, that the commodity that sits beneath their soil, that is God-given, is ultimately going to generate economic value that improves the living standards of the citizens of this country. We owe so much to mining, particularly copper, over the last 60 years and beyond, really. Since before the formation of the Republic, mining really has driven this particular jurisdiction. And of course, policy has been tailored to ensure that there's more investor confidence, to ensure that there's more attractiveness for the mining sector. You saw the adjustment of the policy on the fiscal side towards the deductibility of the mineral royalty tax towards profit. I mean, that also was coming from consultation, and consultation is something that will continue between ourselves as government, as well as the investment community, and all stakeholders, miners and the like, so that we ensure that there's continued growth in the mining sector. Now, what is very important to discuss and to appreciate is that for many years, Zambians have felt shortchanged when it comes to realizing full value from the resources we have. And what is important is that through engagement with yourselves as investors and basic community at large, and most importantly, the Zambian people, there's been very key submissions, and the government of Zambia has taken on elements that will enhance that. First and foremost, we want to ensure that there is sufficient local content. Local content in supplies, local content in running of the mines. We're talking senior management levels, shareholding. You've been seeing an enhancement on the part of the Zambian government in negotiating increased shareholding within the mines. And this is something that's been working, something we're very proud of, because we as the government and we as a country, as a citizenry, are seeking more benefits in that regard. And it's important that the mines start to recognize the need for the Zambian suppliers and contractors to be engaged. And this is something that we want to put in policy. And of course, this has been out there and up for debate, but we're firmly committed to ensuring that this comes to pass in a fair and transparent manner. Of course, there's talk about limitations of capacity among Zambian stakeholders, but it gets to a point where an opportunity has to be granted. While we provide access to capital, you are the market as the mining industry. So it's important that we do appreciate that. The next is really getting to a point where from new mines, I'll mention this. You're very much aware of the fact that there is an aerial geophysical survey taking place, which essentially is getting the Zambian people to now discover new resources that they can own, that we can now package to market for joint ventures with the investment community, where we have significant stake and we leverage on private sector capital, as well as competence and capacity to essentially get into the extraction process and so on. So we can realize value. And this is something that's happening for the first time in over 50 years. And this is something we continue to see within the mining sector in our country. The other point that's also very important to note is that we respect property rights. And I'll give you an example of a time when the government of Zambia was essentially on the side of a situation, if you will, where an investor was mistreated, where an asset is taken away from them, utilizing a legal mechanism, basically a provisional liquidation. We're talking about KCM. Vedanta's asset was taken. There was an impression in the market that Vedanta had lost its social license, and which is true. So it was an unfavorable intervention from the eyes of many for that situation to be restored. But it was done in a painstaking fashion to ensure that the law takes its course, and also the respect of property rights was fulfilled. And that is an illustration of government's commitment to ensuring that an investor who has ownership of an asset will be secure in their ownership of that asset. That government is not standing in any way to appropriate any asset. So this is something that's very important to note, that the government definitely will play its role in having shareholding in businesses by way of a commercial engagement. And this is something that we have to appreciate, because we as government have awareness, understanding of corporate structures, of corporate finance, of valuations, and the commensurate earning on the part of our exposure to the mine through the equity investment that we take. Of course, there should be an aspect of free carry, because we are the owners of these assets. I think this is something that should never be misunderstood. Last but not least, we as a country and as a government wants to ensure that part of our exposure to the mining sector and to benefit from the minerals that are extracted from our country is that we must be involved in the marketing, in the trading of these minerals. Having access to the actual commodity is very important, because we can have a participation in the value addition and also in the margins associated with the trading of the commodity. This is something that we are doing in a way that is not disruptive of the industry, but where we come in as a competitive player with financing, but ensuring that, of course, where we have exposure to entities as shareholders, that we can ultimately get into a mineral sharing, a commodity sharing structure, which again comes from a perspective of negotiation, that nothing's being done arbitrarily. I think what's important here is to recognize the fact that the growth path that we're on, this robust journey that we're on, requires for citizens to be much more deeper when it comes to benefiting from this particular sector. So the trading aspect will come to pass, and I think it's important that entities out there have a great appreciation for this, and it's something that the citizens want, it's something that they will benefit from, and it's something that even our partners in the mining sector, whether it be foreign investors and the like, will appreciate, because the more Zambians benefit from this particular sector, then the greater the social license to operate will be. The moment things begin to look as though Zambians aren't getting a fair share of a sector that they truly have close to their hearts, then of course it starts to, you start to see extremist behavior and things that will not be healthy and conducive for the mining sector. So what's important is that we have continued consultation. We want to make sure that we align policies with the desires of the Zambian people as our number one stakeholder, but also recognizing the concerns of investors, both local and foreign. Thank you.